Everybody, it's your Professor David Britt. It is game day in Dallas, Texas, but not for Cowboy fans, for Seahawk fans. I'm coming to you from the third floor of our house here in Dallas, and this is commonly referred to as the Hawk's Nest. We are long-time Seattle Seahawk fans, have been for many years. My son and I have been to a Seahawk game at least one a year for the last 12 years. So now we just have to travel a little bit further to get there. So you'll see our gear behind us. Interestingly enough, the center for the Seattle Seahawks is from Missouri, where I'm from, and his last name is Britt. My last name is Britt. No relation though. But just wanted to welcome you to Module 4 and give you a preview of what's going to be happening in Module 4. Module 4, you have 2 chapters to read. The first chapter, Chapter 8, talks about evaluating sources. Evaluating sources. Now think about this. In today's world, and if you have a Facebook account, Facebook is in the business to give you more of what you already like. And so what you will find whenever you have certain things, you will get one look, you'll get one opinion, you'll get one focus in those areas. And so that is so detrimental to quality research today. So this is going to be known in the evaluation piece as the anti-Facebook lesson, because you need to focus on multiple viewpoints as you conduct research. And so that's what Chapter 8 is about. How do you evaluate your sources? And then Chapter 9 talks about problem solving. Many times as you develop a research project, you're developing that research project to solve a problem. And here we're talking about adult education in this particular class. And there are potentially problems that are created, and if your focus is on reaching those students, or if your focus is from the student's perspective on making sure that they stay focused, or you stay focused on those, you're solving potential problems. And Chapter 9, the reading is really good because what it does is it gives you several different problem-solving models that you can use and ask very simple questions. And so I talk about some of those in the lecture. You're also given this week a link to the CSU online library that talks about how to evaluate sources. So I would encourage you to follow that link and to look at ways that the CSU online library and the library sources right at Charleston Southern talk to you about how do you effectively evaluate the sources that you have. Because again, one source is not well, for example, let me back up. Some of you had mentioned this last week in your papers that you will look at Google sources, you'll look at other sources. Well, I could tell you the best sources that you're going to be finding for your research here will be found at the CSU online library in peer-reviewed journals. Peer-reviewed journals mean that you that in order to get published in that journal, your paper has to be approved by a jury of your peers. And so let's say, for example, that you and I were going to put together a research project and we wanted to get it published in the Journal of Higher Education. Well, in order for that to get published in that journal, we would have to submit it, and then a jury of our peers would review our content to see if it has bias. If it does, it's not included. If it meets a certain academic and professional standard, and so on and so on. If it meets this very, very rigid amount of requirements, then it can get published. And so think about that versus, let's say you and I decided to put together Tom and Dave's blog on adult education. Well, we could put in there whatever we want to put in there, right? We can make whatever comment we want in that blog. We can put any comment we want to on Facebook. Well, it doesn't meet the same level of quality that a peer-reviewed source would get in an academic or professional journal. So that's why the CSU Online Library will be your source going forward for academic peer-reviewed articles, okay? And so you follow that link, read up on those. The lectures this week talk about a couple of things. They talk about techniques for evaluating resources. They talk about different type of collection strategies. As I mentioned earlier, they talk about problem-solving techniques. So make sure that you go through those and look specifically at those and the details that are are in there. The discussion board this week talks about comparing and contrasting, and sometimes comparing and contrasting is what you're going to be doing in research. You're going to take one thing, you're going to take another thing, and you're going to look at them and say, how are they alike? How are they different? And so there are different, again, different techniques, different processes that you can use when you begin to compare and contrast things. Think about that from a practical perspective too. Your boss may ask you, hey, I've got two different options here that we can take going forward with this opportunity or with this problem. Why don't you tell me the goods, the bads, and then in essence what they're asking you to do is to compare and contrast those, okay? And so let's talk about that in the discussion board. The short answer this week talks about collecting strategies, and it gives you different reviews. How does this, for example, help you when you write your paper? So, does your paper contain a problem? Does your paper have something that you'll be able to help use some of this materials this week? So I would encourage you to talk specifically about that. And then your paper this week is getting more into the research component of it. So you're going to expand your research. You're going to be adding to your paper. Trust me, your paper that you have right now will look much different from a content perspective. So you're going to be adding content to it this week, and I'll be looking to that. You're going to be adding depth to your paper. And if your paper certainly has a problem that you're going to be solving in it, it would be nice for that to be clearly identified. And then if your problem is clearly identified, I'm going to be looking to see if the research that you're supplying actually helps solve that problem. Okay? Well, you have a great week this week. As I mentioned in an email that I posted and also in the announcements, I am going to be leaving the country tomorrow. But again, I'm totally accessible. So make sure that you take a look at that. And again, I look forward to chatting with you. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out. Take care. Go Hawks.